The biggest problem is we don't really know. We know there's damage being caused. We don't know how detrimental that is, and we don't really have good data on like what age we should be allowing these things. We know that the younger a kid is given a device, the more likely they are to have ADHD. So, or autism as well. So you want to avoid as much as possible. We also know that children who learn how to read or spend a lot of time on devices in the first up until primary school, if they're on devices, that you can actually have abnormal development of their white matter tract. So part of their brain actually is abnormally developing if they're actually on a device. So you really want to avoid the devices for the first 5 years of life, because we know that there's actually that abnormal development going on. We don't know why that is happening, but we do know it's going on. There's a big National Institute of Health, NIH, have a huge ongoing study around that, because there's been several studies showing that, and they're very concerned about what's going to happen in the future because of this abnormal development of those areas of the brain in these kids. But it really is, we're doing this social experiment, this huge worldwide experiment on these kids, and we really have no idea what the outcomes are going to be. We know that it's detrimental, and we know that there's really bad impacts on their brain development, as well as their ability to do certain things, as well as their intelligence levels, but we don't know how bad that's going to be. So, I say avoid it definitely up until 5 years of age, and then after that, limit it as much as possible, because it's not going to be, good in the future.
Thanks for those insights there, Mark. So yeah, just limit it as much as you can, and I guess introduce it as they get older. And I guess that's kind of where I'm going to go next. As we get older, teenagers, hey, I was one of those that play a lot of video games. I grew out of that phase and, onto different things. And yeah, but even as adults, we go to work, we're on electronics right now on this podcast, computers, and I go to work, I'm on the screen, and now I'm here, after work, and I'm on the screen here, and, just wondering, like, is there, I guess, any kind of rule of thumb, anything we can go by, or is it just the general rule of the least amount of this stuff as possible? And when you're learning, you're reading stuff, try to like read a book instead of reading an electronic device, just doing those little things. Is that kind of like the most important general rule, perhaps?
Yeah, as much as possible would be to get off the devices. Doing things like getting rid of all your notifications, so your attention's not constantly being dragged from one thing to another, is going to really improve your relationship with the device, right? That's actually going to make it a lot easier for you to actually just concentrate on one thing rather than flipping backwards and forwards. So, those things are going to help with it. Also, just doing one thing at a time, or say setting it up so that you've got everything else turned off and you're just concentrating on one thing. So you and I at the moment, we've got everything else turned off so that we don't get distracted. So it's not anywhere near as harmful as if I was, trying to, write an article while I had my email on and it was beeping at me, and then I had Teams on and it was beeping at me, and I had something else on that I was also looking at, and so on. So if you just each time you do a task, just focus on the one thing when you're on the device, then that's going to be far less detrimental to your mental health than actually trying to constantly flip, and you're going to be way more productive if you do that. So that's the main one, but we do need to get out and actually socialize. Socializing is actually something that, again, is really badly affected in us all, but we need to do that more. So, I mean, devices are awesome because we can do this. We're on different continents and we're able to chat to each other, which is great. But if I want to meet up with someone, if I want to have a meeting with someone here in Sydney, then I will always organise to go and meet them face to face, because I know that we're going to connect better when we do that for a whole bunch of reasons. I'm going to get better response from the person. I'm going to understand what they're thinking and what they're doing better. You collaborate a lot better when you're face to face. And so that's really important for us to do as well, for a whole bunch of reasons. So, it's good to use the devices when we need to use the devices, but then it's good to go back to what we know actually works and what we know is really good for our brains and our mental health and our physical health when we actually can do that as well.